Did you know that the show Stranger Things started with adult actors at first? Not the kids we all know? And that it was first set in 1980s Long Island with a different name? And that's just one of them. Tons of hidden clues and twists hide in plain sight, and we're about to find out. What better way to start than with our favorite villain, Vecna? You obviously never saw this, but Vecna has been there since the very beginning. He didn't just appear out of nowhere in Season 4. If you rewind to Season 2 and squint real hard, you'll spot the subtle hints that something darker than the Demogorgons and the Mind Flayer was bubbling up from the Upside Down way before he strutted in with his clock-chiming curse. Shadows that hung around a beat too long in the corners of frames, weird vine-like patterns creeping into the background of supposedly normal scenes. And don't get me started on those shots that just felt off. At the time, you'd never guess that something worse was creeping at the corner. But binge watching now? It's crystal clear the Duffer Brothers were masterminding this villain drop, planting seeds without a single fan theory subreddit blowing up. Good thing we didn't catch it clearly, because the wow factor wouldn't be there during the big reveal. While we were all busy enjoying the show, we never stopped to ask what the inspiration behind such a mind-blowing movie was. I mean, all those kids snatched off the streets, hooked up to electrodes, dosed with psychedelics, and turned into psychic weapons. You don't see this every day on the news. It just had to mean something. Before Hawkins became the familiar backdrop of Stranger Things, the creators were inspired by the Montauk Project, a true life story about secret governments who carried out experiments involving children. And when you look even closer, you realize that that's the exact same story as Eleven's. It mirrors her nightmare backstory at Hawkins' lab to a T, from the sensory deprivation tanks to the numbered test subjects, you name it. To add to the fun, the Montauk legend was this wild conspiracy theory from the 80s, blending real Cold War paranoia with urban myths about time travel and mind control. Once you know all this, it becomes clear that Stranger Things was always meant to be about more than monsters. It was about power, control, and the loss of childhood innocence. Let's look into the characters' obsessive Dungeons & Dragons game. As crazy as this sounds, Dungeons & Dragons is more than just a game for kids. It's a blueprint for the characters themselves. Come on, it's genius. Those basement sessions aren't filler. They're the show's secret sauce, carefully mapping out every hero's arc. Will is the wizard who gets lost in another world. Mike's the DM, leading the charge with heart. Lucas plays the careful ranger, bow-slinging skeptic who's always thinking ahead. Dustin's your bard through and through, mouthy, inventive, cracking jokes and MacGyvering solutions with his curly-haired charm. And Eleven, on the other hand, stands apart as a powerful spellcaster whose abilities change everything. The show crams in visual nods everywhere. It's not just nostalgia bait for the 80s kids. It defines their growth. Our dear Bob Newby is another fascinating case. He quickly became one of the most loved characters in Season 2, but he almost did not last nearly as long as fans loved him. The script had him biting it by episode 4, just another Radio Shack nerd for the Mind Flayer to snack on. But his charm was simply off the charts. His performance was so strong, the Duffer Brothers just couldn't let go of him so easily. So they tweaked the script a bit, giving us those heartwarming Joyce moments and that pulse-pounding Demodog demo scene. That decision made his final moments far more painful. What makes Bob's story even heavier is that there was a version where Will would have caused his death. The Mind Flayer would have used Will to hurt Bob, making the loss even more tragic. That idea was eventually dropped, but knowing it existed adds another layer of darkness to the season. Small details add layers to character relationships in ways that are easy to miss. For instance, when Hopper interrupts Mike and Eleven to tell her to leave her door open a little, it seems like a minor moment. But fast forward to Season 4, with Eleven solo in that creaky California house, her door is still left open the same way. Hopper's not there. but his protective vibe haunts the frame, showing how deeply Hopper's presence stayed with her. There are also fun nods to classic horror. Bob mentions being haunted as a child by an evil clown. Based on his age, he would have grown up in Maine in the late 1950s, the same state where the story of It is set. Bob drops that line so casually while fixing lights, but knowing how much the show loves classic horror, this feels like a respectful nod rather than coincidence. Friendship and subtle emotional connections are everywhere, but the intense classic horror most likely prevented you from seeing it. At the end of season 3, Eleven receives a green scrunchie that once belonged to Max. You're probably wondering, what does a piece of fabric have to do with emotions? Well, if you look at it beyond the piece of fabric that it is, you'll realize that although it seems small, it carries a lot of emotional weight. It represents friendship, shared strength, and a silent goodbye. The costume team placed it carefully to remind viewers of the bond between the two girls. In a show packed with nosebleeds and gates, this comes off as subtle vulnerability. Memory and grief also have quiet but important visual cues. Hopper's daughter appears only once on screen, and the one time she does, she's seen wearing a blue hair tie. This was easy to miss if you blinked. After her death, the color just wouldn't stop appearing in the series, and Hopper ties it around his wrist occasionally. To add to the whole emotional weight it already carries, he eventually passes it on to Eleven. This small object becomes a recurring symbol of love, memory, and loss, connecting characters across seasons in ways viewers might not even realize. The show also creates visual continuity across storylines. When Will goes missing, Jonathan puts up posters around town. Years later, when Eddie disappears in season 4, his uncle puts up missing posters in the same way Jonathan did. What's even crazier is that he's wearing the exact same jacket Jonathan did. It ties seasons like a quilt of communal grief, from Byers' shed to Munson trailer. This visual link quietly connects both families through shared pain. The attention to detail by the producers is incredible, and this particular one most definitely happened right under your nose. During the Russian base storyline, there is a blink and you miss detail involving Robin's bike. After the group gets trapped underground, the bike is still parked outside the mall in the next episode. The show only shows it for a second, but it proves how much attention the creators pay to continuity, even when they know most people will never notice. From the very beginning, objects carry deep meaning. In the very first episode of the series, Will hides in a shed while trying to escape. Inside that shed is an upside-down horseshoe. Traditionally, an upside-down horseshoe is considered bad luck. Seeing that symbol in the place where everything went wrong for Will feels intentional. Almost like fate was sealed before anything supernatural even appeared. Speaking of objects carrying hidden meaning, Dustin's hat is another example of meaningful objects. Dustin's hat has been part of his look since the beginning, but it later becomes something even sweeter. In season 3, that same hat is seen sitting on Susie's bedside table. It shows how much she cares for Dustin and how deeply connected they are, even though they live far apart and barely see each other. There's a haunting visual clue tied to Barb's fate that many people missed. When Nancy asks if anyone has seen Barb, a poster with the words, "The Raven Nevermore," is visible behind her. That phrase directly hints at death and loss, quietly confirming Barb's tragic end long before it is fully revealed. The masked robbers in season 2 are iconic, but their masks actually appear somewhere else as well. At the general store where Will's mom works, the same masks are available for sale. This detail grounds the story in realism, showing that even strange events often come from ordinary places. One of the most intense fights in the series happens between Steve and Billy, and this fight carries hidden storytelling. Steve initially has the upper hand until Billy smashes a plate over his head. Later, viewers learn that Billy's mother once tried to defend herself from abuse by doing the same thing. As complicated as Billy's emotions are, there's still a trace of lingering love for his mother. The creators have openly shared their love for classic films, and that passion is sprinkled throughout during a costume moment. Nancy and Steve dress up as characters inspired by a famous movie starring Tom Cruise, reflecting both the era and the creator's personal tastes. Fans don't know this, but Vecna's visual design was hinted at earlier through strange printing errors on in-story material. Some versions showed symbols appearing on the wrong hand. Whether intentional or accidental, it now feels like an early echo of the twisted nature of the villain himself. Another clever detail involves channel numbers. This happens when Eleven's mother turns the television to channel 8 just before Eleven goes searching for her sister. That sister turns out to be number 8. The timing of that action feels deliberate and playful, numeric fate, or just an unintended outcome. Hopper's love for classic television shapes his appearance in the most unnoticeable ways. In season 3, he watches a show featuring a mustache, which influences him to grow one himself. Later, he even requests a specific shirt worn by the actor from that show. That's a whole new level of pop culture love. Even Steve's ice cream job is referenced creatively in combat. He uses an ice cream scooper-shaped microphone as a weapon during a fight, a subtle callback to his earlier employment and personal history. Hospital room numbers carry meaning too. One patient room is 403, the HTTP status code for forbidden, subtly reinforcing the danger associated with the character inside. The Mind Flayer is also foreshadowed in unexpected ways. Reflections on water show hints of its shape long before the creature is fully revealed, giving attentive viewers a chance to spot early visual clues. Even Stranger Things phone numbers sometimes extend into the real world. In Season 4, a number shown on screen produces familiar sounds from the show when called, blurring the lines between fiction and reality. Finally, the Season 4 finale contains a visual Easter egg for hardcore fans. Lucas reads a book to Max, whose cover mirrors the Stranger Things logo, complete with similar colors and layout. This subtle design choice ties the series to its influences and quietly celebrates the inspiration behind the show itself. Stranger Things is the kind of show that rewards careful watching, and these small details prove just how much thought went into every scene. So next time you rewatch, keep your eyes open because there is always something new waiting to be noticed. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos.